Okay, it's time to get into the meat of our presentation here today. Our first presenter this morning is going to recap the winter weather from last year, as we normally do, and it is Mark Nelsen, who is a native of the Northwest and has lived most of his life within a 2-hour drive of Portland. Raised in Hood River, Mount Angel, and Chehalis, Washington, Mark has always had an interest in weather, especially after the destructive windstorm of November 1981. After completing high school, Mark headed to the University of Washington, where he completed a Bachelor's of Science degree in Atmospheric Science in 1991. After a short stint at a small local forecasting company, Mark was hired by Coin TV in Portland for the weekend weather spot in 1993. While forecasting at Coin, Mark was also seen on Fox News at 10. In 2000, Mark joined Fox 49 as their chief meteorologist and then became chief meteorologist at KPTV. Mark is one of only 2 certified broadcast meteorologists, the CBM National AMS seal, on Portland television, and the first in the Pacific Northwest to achieve this distinction. Mark has served on the AMS Board of Mark has served on the AMS Board of Broadcast Meteorology from 2005 to 2007. He was responsible for evaluating candidates for the AMS seal of approval and CBM certification. So if you ever see a small market TV station and you think, gosh, that guy is horrible giving the weather. Well, we have Mark to thank for giving the seal of approval on that. So, just kidding. Mark was awarded Oregon's Best Weathercast from the Associated Press in 1996, 2004, and 2006. He was also nominated for an Emmy Award in 2007. Wow, pretty high marks there, Mark. Mark has also held many positions on the board of directors with the single largest chapter of the American Meteorological Society in the country. That's us. And Mark loves rough weather, and that's why he lives in the west end of the Columbia River Gorge. Mark does not have a cool Viper radar system like Dave Selesky. Dave, you in here? Hopefully I pronounced that right, Viper. But he does have 3 ducks named Quacker, Chip Chat, and Nibbler. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mark Nelsen.
Okay, Steve put this on here for me, so it did show up, right? There we go. And the ducks love this weather. Okay, so those of you that have been coming here, well, wait, how many of you here are here for your first time? First time you've come to this meeting? Oh, that's good. Lots of first-time attenders. Maybe you already asked Steve, but I was busy talking to Dave back there. What I like to do, I just like to wrap up the past winter because well, for one, we just want to remember what were the highlights of the previous winter, and also, well, we find out what didn't happen last winter. Where's your? Does this work? Forward. There we go. Okay, you know what? Some people say, oh, I'm sorry, I got to mention global warming. I've heard people say that the global warming is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated. Well, you know what? The biggest hoax ever perpetrated on Portland happened. I consider it a meteorological crime. Last Groundhog Day 2012 at the Oregon Zoo. So we get the press release, we get the pictures from the zoo, and they say, hey, we put out the little hedgehog, you know how they yank him out, and they put this Jabari the hedgehog out, and they said there was no shadow, and the Oregon Zoo now says that means an early spring. But do you see anything funny there in the picture?
Sunshine.
It was in the shadow of the handler. You got to put the guy out where he can actually have a shadow. Okay? So I would say that was bungled. However, I also noticed that if there's an early spring, that means great February and early March weather to get out to the zoo, maybe. I don't know. So I was ranting about that all evening long on the news. All right. This graphic didn't actually come from our area, but I think it summarizes much of last winter. We had a pretty slow winter. What was the deal? We had a La Nina winter. Remember, it was going to be a good La Nina winter. We thought it'd be a really exciting winter. I'm not saying nothing exciting happened. We'll get to that. But we sure didn't have a big epic La Nina winter. We didn't have a big snowy cold winter. And from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day, that is a huge amount of time. We had 2 interesting weeks of weather. One between Christmas and New Year's, and another one in the middle of January. We had snow and flooding, which we'll get to in great detail in a second. But for week after week, weather geeks like me, you get up in the morning, you make your coffee, and you go look at the weather maps. Okay? There's one day after another of just like, wow, there's nothing interesting on maps today. It went on and on and on. So finally then, spring approached and the snow showed up in the lowlands. Hey, just so there's no confusion, here we go. There were 3 measurable snowfalls here in Portland. Okay? Officially 2.3 inches on January 18th, 0.3 inches on March 1st, and 0.5 inches on March 22nd. So the official total out at the Weather Service Forecast Office was 3.1 inches. And of course they recorded a trace a few other times, I think, and then most of that in March and late February. Okay, so here's the big picture. We'll go through these quickly because I got a lot of charts, more than Steve ever has. So we'll go through these quickly. This is just the big picture, warmer than average, cooler than average, the warm colors, the cool colors. This is November, December, January, February. Do I have March? December, January, February. That's all we heard about all winter long was how mild it was back east. We, in the end, were about average. Notice some spots a little below average here in the Pacific Northwest if you take December, January, and February. And I don't have the March one, but let's say if you took December through March, I bet it'd be a little below average. Just a guess. Maybe somebody else will talk about that in a moment. Just our winter temps, nothing too remarkable there. Pretty close to average, maybe slightly above. That's just, oh, by the way, that is only, that's the whole Pacific Northwest. All right, big weather patterns. When he dips in the atmosphere, upper level troughing, we generally associate with either stormier or cooler than average weather. This is, oh, I'm going to look here. This is November. November started with lots of action. Kind of like we're about to see here in November this year, soon. Then December, boy, December was boring. Big ridge over us most of the time, drier than average, but a lot of inversions in December. What some people, I like this new term, somebody on my weather blog coined this, fake cold. You know, you can have a high of 34 in Salem and Eugene in this pattern, yet it didn't come from cold Arctic air, it's just cool air just sitting in the valley. Meanwhile, it's 55 up at Timberline. So that's fake cold. Okay. And then this is January. January was a mix. We had ridging to start, then a cold trough. So you see the pattern there. And then February, we finally had troughing over us the last third of the month. That map doesn't tell you much because we had the weather pattern change partway through the month. So it's maybe an average of two different weather patterns there. And then remember March? Wow. Look at that. Cold in the west, warm in the east. Why can't we get that pattern in December? For the weather geeks that want to see lots of snow and ice, I don't know. So November, nice and wet. Winter storm season kicked in quickly. Steve Pierce sent me these two pics from, that was Highway 18, right? West of, thank you, Van Duzer Corridor. I think that was in November. Pretty stormy. We had a good south wind storm along the coast and in the Coast Range. Great snow in the Cascades. Ski areas, I think every ski area opened by the day after Thanksgiving, and maybe Meadows and Timberline opened before, I think. Then we had some heavy rain here in the valleys before Thanksgiving, kind of like this year. December, we entered the land of inversions, warm above, cool below. Somebody down there in the fog was complaining that it was gray, like my wife getting her little sun lamp going. This is a great winter solstice shot I got. Beautiful sunshine, at least at Hood River. Obviously, those are two pictures. We didn't have two suns, but sunrise and then sunset. Okay. Ski areas were making snow for Christmas break because they needed, well, at least Ski Bowl was there. I love the frosted trees from the overnight snow from the snow gun. Okay? So what I consider Snooze Fest Part 1 was that boring weather in December. Lots of ridging. Coldest nights of the winter were in the first half of December because of the, quote, fake cold. We had some clear nights here and there. Those are the coldest of the winter. Low 20s. Christmas, oh, and then here's the bad news. Christmas break, the last time you want to get, the only time you don't want to get heavy rain and a big washout at the ski resorts was between Christmas and New Year's. Big downpours. I remember seeing one, we sent, somebody to go stand up there in the rain for the 10 o'clock news. And I remember seeing some of the video, it looked like those hurricane shots where the rain is just going sideways, slamming into a roof. Yeah. Okay, second winter with unusually heavy Mount Hood rain, December 27th and 28th. Mount Hood Meadows, almost 7 inches there. I think that was all rain. And Lee's Camp, 9 inches. Nice little picture of Lake Hoodoo, December 28th. That's pretty bad. Kind of hard to get out to the ski run if you have to go through water.
It's not on the website. That's what you'd think.
Then we got past that one exciting week with the rain and the stormy weather in late December. And then Snooze Fest Part 2. First half of the month was totally uneventful until the weather maps started showing something really exciting. They were showing maybe area of low pressure would come out of the coastline somewhere, maybe in Oregon, and we'd be on the north side of that. We'd get a ton of snow here in western Oregon, possibly. But then the low ended up tracking farther north. Okay, we're going to get back to that in a minute. But then the second part of January totally dead once we got past this little thing, this little flood in the middle of the valley. Get to that in a second. So snow and ice, what we ended up with, 2.3 inches. It was on the 17th of January, started in the evening, and it changed to rain during the night, at least from Portland south. Okay, had a little bit of excitement during the 10 o'clock news that night. But we just missed a big snowstorm here in the city. Columbia City, Scappoose, about a foot of snow that night. Anybody here from Scappoose? Really? Vernonia, a foot of snow. Look at that down there on the lower left. And Forest Grove, 8 to 11 inches out there. So we were right on the edge of that historic snowstorm. I think Chehalis, where I grew up, about 16 inches of snow in one night. Never happened when I was there. But not that I'm bitter. And at the same time, a lot of snow in the north central part of Oregon from that same system. And then Hood River changed to a big ice storm over the next few days, while we went to a flood event here west of the Cascades. So okay, so while we were all focused on the snow excitement, it started raining in Salem. And then it kept raining, and look at those totals. I remember hearing from some reporters saying, oh, people down here are saying it's the worst since '96, and I thought, oh, I don't think so. And then I looked at the totals, and I thought, ooh, those are just about the same. Look at the 3-day rainfall totals. And it was really centered this time on the Central Valley. Notice here, Portland and Eugene, yeah, some minor flooding, but it really wasn't any big issue. But boy, down there in the central part of the valley, over 8 inches in Monmouth, 7 inches in Salem, just there near Staten, almost 9 inches. So dramatic flooding, worse than 96 on spots. February was so boring, through most of the month. Then at the end of February, end of February, finally, we started getting a cooler, wetter pattern. And then March, everything hit again. We had a cold, wet pattern the entire month. Tons of mountain snow, wettest March in PDX history. Heavy coastal snowstorm on the 12th. About 8.5 inches in Tillamook, 6 inches in Newport, 5 inches in Florence. Just amazing. Likely the heaviest March snow ever. If somebody knows more about this than I do, but chime in. But it's hard to, the snowfall records on the coast are kind of sketchy. In fact, I thought Newport doesn't report snow anymore. Do you know, George? No. You think it still does? I couldn't find, online it said it stopped like 3 years ago. Oh, you don't think it does, okay. So then we had several wet snowfalls in the lowlands, March 1st, March 12th, March 21st. If you go up 1,000 to near 1,000 feet, there were several more that didn't make it down to the lowest elevations. We had the big, March 1st. Those are the snowfall totals. Find your town. These were really annoying to forecast, by the way. How much snow is going to fall here at the lowest elevation? Well, the neighbor up the street, 500 feet up, had 3 inches, and I had nothing, or a trace. We had 0.3 inches out of that March 1st snowfall at the airport. March 12th, none officially in Portland, yet everybody outside of the middle of Portland had snow. 4 inches in Happy Valley, 3 inches in Brush Prairie. Okay? March 12th, oh, same thing. Yeah, look at that. Over on the west side, same elevations, nothing. Cornelius, Forest Grove, Hillsborough. Then the early spring snowstorm. I think spring. Are the ladies enjoying their spring break? They look real happy. Well, the one on the right looks kind of happy. They look kind of cold, don't they? Matching outfits too? That's interesting. Just a viewer photo, okay? Heavy and steady precip dragged snow level down to the surface again, and this time a front sat right over us. This was the day I was headed out to Reno for spring break on the way to Disneyland. And I remember hitting Eugene. It was like, wow, there's a lot of snow here. And then just 10 miles south, it was gone on the other side of the front. But look at those totals. Just amazing to see that much snow on March 21st, 2 days after spring had officially begun. So officially, 0.5 inches with that storm. And that became the latest snow ever in Portland, okay? In fact, before that time, about 2 weeks before that time, where's Clinton? You're here, because I know you're talking. He's here somewhere, Clinton. Oh, there he is. He did a bunch of work, and you know, Clinton does all that, I think most or all of the work in the Portland Forecast Office, it seems like, with all the climatology. He updates all those pages. He's done a huge amount of work, so credit to him. But he realized, or went back and looked at two of the, what used to be the latest snowfall ever in Portland. Those were hail. Because in the old days, I guess it was mixed. So up until this year, so theoretically, the latest snow was that 1946 number. But now it's March 22nd. Okay? else do we have? Portland snowfall the last 13 winters. Up, down, up, down. We have a few huge years. We have a lot of years where we don't get much. Sometimes when I go to schools, the kids will say, wait, there's a cycle there. Every 4 years it snows a whole bunch. Okay? We're averaging 2.5 inches so far this decade, but we've only got a few years in this decade. There are your snowfall totals by decade. So if you divide those by 10, that's your yearly snowfall during those decades. Okay? You see kind of a drop off, then it seems to have leveled out a bit. Downtown Portland snow. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't there issues in the 1980s? We think there's missing snowfalls. KGW took those records, right?
Yeah, all like May 4th through.
Where's Jim Little?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, there were several in there. Didn't we talk about this, Steve, over email?
There's a whole bunch of missing data from about 1984 through 87 from downtown.
What was going on down there at KGW, late nights at KGW?
Dave?
Okay. All right. I don't want to besmirch your reputation, Jim. All right. Those were the totals from downtown. No Arctic blast this winter. I'm a gardener. I noticed I had much better fruit trees and everything grew much better this year. Didn't have anything frozen. We only got down to 24 in Portland. And Steve had just mentioned, yeah, somebody else I was just talking to just said it was only 23 in Salem. Oh, that's the graphic I showed earlier, maybe. No windstorm in the valley. Okay, you know I do this every time. I think we're overdue for a windstorm. We had no windstorm in the valley. Last storm was 6 years ago in December of 2006. Remember, we were at the southern edge of that Hanukkah Eve storm that just slammed Puget Sound. In fact, we haven't had a gust to 60 at PDX. I guess we had that big 95 storm. We were close in 2000. I'd say that was the last significant windstorm was in 2000. East wind season, those of you that live out near the gorge or in the gorge, pretty mild. We had not that many east wind days compared to some previous years. Okay? I told you lots of charts and graphs, right? All these will be available on the AMS site at some point. Mountain snowpack. It was looking pretty bad, right? Let's see, does mine? There we go. Yeah, it was looking pretty bad. We got to, late January. We're getting way below average. This is up on Mount Hood, just below Timberline Lodge. We caught up a bit with that snow in mid-January. Got a little bit behind in February again, and then zoomed way above average. In fact, I was talking to somebody that works at a ski resort that's not on Mount Hood, and he said, yeah, it was looking really gruesome all the way through February for them, but March and April more than made up for it, and everybody got bonuses. So, I guess they get bonuses. They don't do that at Fox 12. Okay, and then McKenzie Pass, okay, yeah, down in Central Oregon, a little bit worse for snowpack. You see McKenzie Pass there at just under 5,000 feet. Look how far below average it was through most of the winter, and then bang, went way above average in late March and April. Okay, we'll fly through spring here. Third consecutive cool and wet spring. Speaking of gardening, that was annoying again. However, we had a little warm spell in May, so it wasn't as bad. It didn't seem as gruesome as the past few years. But you see the averages there. Warm and dry spring. Well, at least warm spring across the rest of the country. We were cold. Below average again. 4 out of the last 5 springs have been unusually cool and or wet. I don't think each of them was real wet, but cool. June was the second wettest on record in Portland. Summer, near average, but a chilly start. You know, June kind of put a damper on things, but then after that it was pretty decent. We had a hot spell here and there. Last real hot summer was in 2009. And then September was warm and dry. All that sunshine was really nice. In fact, see what it does? It's coming up, it's coming up. Yes, look at that corn stalk. Viewer photos, you gotta love them. I don't know how I got that corn stalk to grow that high, but somehow I did it. And the fire smoke was really annoying. We had lots of forest fires in the Cascades, and those up in north central Washington, the smoke drifted down over us many times. But it did make for great sunsets, and these are some of the best viewer photos of sunsets I've ever had in all these years. Water year rain, that ends in September, the end of September. A little above average, near average for the last 3 years, so it's been wetter. So the real forecast, forget everybody else, look what I found. It's going to be sunny most of the winter, mild and dry. That's all you need to know. It's from the Farmer's Almanac, and if you turn the page on that one, they have the summer forecast for next year ready to go, which is real nice. Good luck, forecasters. Hey, there's Tyree. Tyree's looking for a new job. That's it. Any questions? Oh no, we're not doing questions.
Yeah, we'll do Q&A at the end. All right,
Thank
Mark
you.
Nelsen, everybody.